Officer discovers an amazing puppy. Vet's surprising call to police exposes a hidden truth. Sara Mitchell's patrol car glided down Maplewood's charming streets, the sun casting dappled shadows over the sidewalks. Yet, as the familiar sight of Main Street unfolded, a whisper of dissatisfaction crept into her mind. Recognition rang hollow. A badge of honor called for greater purpose beyond that commendation pinned neatly on her uniform. With every face she passed, every wave she offered, the weight of her familial legacy urged her to seek something deeper than routine enforcement. A police officer in a quaint town, she saved others daily, but who would save her? Without warning, a soft whimper broke her thoughts. Her heart raced as unsteady footsteps led her into a shadowy alleyway. There, half buried beneath discarded crates, a scrappy little puppy with soulful brown eyes stared up at her. It was as if fate had intervened, and despite a flood of compassion, a thorn of uncertainty pricked her conscience. Was this what she needed to find fulfillment? A furry sidekick that demanded her care? Or was it another distraction from the life she felt escaping her grasp? "All right, buddy," she murmured, fear gnawing at her heart as she scooped the trembling creature into her arms. The warmth of that small body, nestled against her uniform, overshadowed the unease. "I'll name you Jasper." The journey to Dr. Lucy Bennett's clinic was filled with a nervous anticipation. Would caring for a helpless animal shake her from feeling stagnant? As Dr. Bennett scanned the puppy for microchips and ailments, Sarah's eyes landed on Lucy's gentle smile. But there was something else, a momentary flicker of acknowledgement that sent a chill racing down her spine. "Sarah, have you ever heard about your grandfather's bravery in standing up for a family of immigrants?" Lucy inquired suddenly, her voice a whisper that landed heavily against Sarah's heart. The mention of her grandfather sent turbulent thoughts spiraling within her. Was she not only a protector of the law, but also a guardian of her family's history? The burden of expectation, not only to uphold her badge, but also to carry on his legacy, gripped her like a vice. She thought back to the quiet stories her parents shared, fleeting mentions of struggle, injustice, and a fight that had been buried, much like her own unspoken fears. As Lucy spoke of unwavering courage in the face of adversity, details long forgotten began to unravel in Sarah's mind. The weight of their shared history bore down upon her, threatening to suffocate her resolve. Confronting these memories demanded more than she had ever anticipated. The very thought drove her to the edge of a precipice, longing for clarity, yet terrified of the abyss of truth. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The more Lucy revealed of injustice and bravery intensified the battle raging inside of Sarah. A commitment to her badge contrasted sharply with a calling for justice beyond her everyday duties. Could she step beyond the badge and reclaim her grandfather's fight? Or would it destroy her own reputation? Jasper whimpered in her arms, an innocent witness to turmoil she wished she could shield him from. As she looked into his trusting eyes, the stakes became insurmountable. To pursue the truth would mean not only standing up to potential enemies, but also facing the ghosts of her family's past. Could she risk losing everything she had worked for? Or wasn't justice worth that sacrifice? The growing tension wrapped around her like a tightening noose, the echoing question haunting her mind. How far was she willing to go to reclaim her family's legacy? As they prepared to confront the powerful figures who might resist their unveiling of bypassed truths, fear loomed. The storm ahead threatened to destroy both the past and her future. Would she find the strength, or would the very roots that once stood for loyalty become her downfall? The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting amber hues that danced across Sarah's uniform as she paced outside Dr. Bennett's clinic, Jasper safely cradled in her arms. The puppy's soft heartbeat against her chest provided a rhythmic counterpoint to the chaos swelling in her mind. Each beat echoed the weight of her grandfather's legacy, beckoning her to assert herself in a world of injustice that felt increasingly familiar. Beneath the comforting surface of Maplewood, crackling tension between perseverance and fear frayed her resolve. The feeling of stagnation lingered like a thick fog, pressing down on her as doubts twisted into formidable adversaries. A career built on principles now suddenly seemed constrained by age-old fears and societal expectations that lingered like ghosts in her peripheral vision. "What am I doing here, Jasper?" she whispered, gripping the puppy closer as a reminder of innocence and untainted ambition. Was this journey about him, or about confronting her own fears? She recalled Lucy's voice, urging her to dig deeper, to find her own narrative amidst a tapestry woven with strife and courage. An eager tension urged her on, a palpable push to explore previously untouched territories in her fragmented sense of self. First, she needed to decide if she would embrace her calling, or if she would allow the tides of doubt to sweep her back into complacency. She was still a cop, but as she stepped forward, there was a dawning realization. She might need to become more than a mere enforcer of the law. Driven by a newfound urgency, she turned her steps towards the precinct instead of the comforts of home. Each stride resonated more than the last, a commitment to confront the looming adversaries that her grandfather had once faced. Memories of family stories long buried urged her on, the tales now casting a shadow over her responsibilities. She had lived her life beneath those expectations, but it was time to ignite the very flame of those legacies. Arriving at the station, the familiar buzz of the precinct felt sterile compared to the newfound warmth in her heart. She eyed her fellow officers talking and laughing, their words muffled by the urgency building within her. What was she waiting for? A shift in her paradigm awaited her, one that required acting not just in her official role, but in standing up for truth. Before engaging, she took a moment to harness her fears. Jasper's big brown eyes met hers with unwavering trust and loyalty, a reminder that the commitment she sought wasn't solely about familial duty. It was also about protecting innocence. Her grip on the leash tightened. She needed allies. "Hey, Tom," she called to one of the senior officers who was poring over case reports. As he turned to face her, she felt a mix of the old and new. Her pulse quickened, a gamble toward communication and camaraderie. "What's up, Mitch?" he replied with an inviting demeanor, and she took a breath, allowing the swell of urgency to fill her voice. "I need to talk to you about something important. It's about that family from a few months back, the one that the others didn't give a second thought to. We might have missed something." Tom's brow furrowed slightly, a sign of intrigue sparking in his eyes. "Diving into old cases is risky, you know. Sometimes there's a reason things get buried." "Or maybe we should be the ones digging them up," she asserted, resolute. As the words left her lips, an electric thrill coursed through her. The moment hung between them, and it was no longer just a matter of duty. It was the beginning of reclaiming her purpose, her voice, one that compelled her to fight for justice beyond the badge. With every beat of Jasper's heart matching her own, Sara knew they were about to stir a hornet's nest. The first step had been taken, but ahead lay the unpredictable chaos of confrontation. Would her choices serve to deepen the fissures in her relationships or forge new paths of solidarity? The answers lay somewhere in the turbulent waters of the pursuit of old truths. Could her transformation lead not only to justice for those family members, but also spark a change within herself, challenging the often muted realities of right and wrong? The weight of uncertainty bore down as she prepared for the inevitable response. The tides of destiny roared just beyond the threshold, the real test of her courage looming close. Sara glanced down. Jasper stared up at her, unaware of the storm brewing in the distance, but instinctively aware that something significant was about to unfold. Sara took a deep breath, steadied by the weight of determination pushing against her fears. The precinct hummed around her, a world of routine where she was about to inject an unfamiliar vigor. The murmurs and laughter floated away, and in that moment, it was just her and Tom, suspended on the precipice of a decision that could alter their course. "I understand the risks, Tom," she continued, projecting confidence. "But we owe it to them, to the lives and families that are buried under neglect. There is something deeper here." His gaze sharpened as he assessed her, weaving through the threads of her resolve. "Sometimes it's easier to maintain the status quo, Sara. You know how things work. It might not be worth the headache." Sara could feel the pulse of her heartbeat sinking with the urgency of her mission. Inside her, a whisper of doubt lingered, but she pushed it aside. They deserve an advocate. If we don't step up, who will? We can't just let it go. There could be more going on than we realize. All right, he said slowly, the fire in her eyes beginning to stoke his interest. But I'm not promising you'll like what you find. Just promise me we'll look together, she insisted, her voice steadier than before. Tom gave her a quick nod, and a flicker of respect ignited in his expression. Let's pull the reports. Any leads we can follow up on? As they settled into the rhythm of investigating, a new synergy emerged. Sara uncovered strengths she hadn't accessed: painstaking research, critical thinking, and a surprisingly adept knack for connecting dots. The hours melted away as she found herself immersed in pages of notes and reports from the past case, each document connected to another, revealing a pattern that throbbed with the potential for something far darker beneath the surface. Tension crackled in the precinct as they pieced together discrepancies and coincidences, painting a clearer picture of the family they had overlooked. Names, dates, and incidents intertwined like a sinister tapestry. Every detail felt like a silent plea echoing from the shadows. But with clarity came a nagging anxiety. Sara couldn't shake the sense that what they were unearthing was bigger than the family. It was a systemic failure set against the backdrop of complacency. She looked over at Tom, whose brow furrowed deeper with each revelation. They shared a quiet determination that was palpable in the warm air. It was late when Tom finally broke the silence, his voice low. This is going to escalate, you realize? You're stirring up a lot of things people don't want disturbed. Sara met his gaze, feeling her resolve solidify. Good. It's time they're disturbed. This isn't just about the family anymore. It's about accountability. About ensuring that we... Suddenly Tom's phone buzzed, slicing through her thoughts. A frown crossed his face as he checked the message. She could almost hear the gears turning in his mind, examining the possible implications. "What is it?" she asked, her heart racing in response. He hesitated, then replied, "It's about a nearby incident. A dog-fighting ring busted last night. But there's one lead that's connected back to that family we were researching." A chill crawled up her spine, recognition dawning. "Do you think they were involved?" "Looks like," he replied grimly. "And there's more. One of the suspects just made bail, and rumor has it, he's coming back for the family." The gravity of his words sunk in, a storm of fear and urgency unfurling in her chest. She couldn't allow what she'd uncovered to put innocent lives at risk. What had initially been a search for justice was swiftly evolving into a battle for survival. "Tom, we have to act fast. We can't let them come to harm," she said, adrenaline surging through her. As Sara moved quickly into the fray, the path ahead widened in complexity. Could she arrange protection for that family? And what if she found herself in direct confrontation with the forces of violence, lurking just beyond her newfound purpose? With each discovery, the stakes rose higher, propelling her deeper into an unknown world, where her determination would be tested like never before. No longer merely a question of justice for the family, but a race to prevent disaster laid bare before them. "Prepare for a fight," she warned, the certainty in her voice amplifying her anxiety as she prepared to challenge the impending storm. Uncertainty swirled within her as she steeled herself, aware that the moment was fast approaching. A crucial decision hung in the air, a crackling charge that would shape both her future and the innocent lives she now felt fiercely protective of. Sara felt the weight of responsibility burrow deeper into her chest as she and Tom rushed to gather information and formulate a plan. The impending threat to the family ignited a fire within her, a potent mix of fear and determination that pushed her onward. She had a newfound clarity. This was no longer simply about investigating a neglect case, but about protecting lives that depended on her courage. "Let's split up the leads," she suggested, her voice steady despite the tumult within. "You check the records for any prior incidents linked to that family. I'll reach out to local shelters and vet clinics. We need to know what they're capable of and where the family stands." Tom nodded, impressed by her decisiveness. "And if it gets dangerous, you call for backup. We can't allow assumptions to put us in the line of fire." "Agreed." There was a resolve in her that felt tangible, a line drawn in the sand. She was ready for whatever came next, driven by an unyielding sense of purpose that gave her newfound strength. As she left Tom's side, Sarah's mind raced. Questions flitted through her thoughts like shadows. What kind of danger was the family in? What exactly was the link to the dog-fighting ring? Each query became a potential thread, tugging at her heart, amplifying her resolve to advocate fiercely. After making the rounds at her local shelters, she discovered a surprising connection. Several volunteers had noticed that a recent batch of dogs arrived battered and frightened, carrying an unsettling familiarity to some of the names in her report. The revelation quickened her pulse. If the family had ties to this illicit ring, they might be living under constant threat. But why? Were they being coerced into involvement, or were they victims of a larger scheme? Determined to chase down every clue, she rushed to her car, her thoughts colliding with the volume of everything she had begun to uncover. The radio in her vehicle sputtered, momentarily distracting her. It was a call about a nearby vet who had seen one of the dogs from the fighting ring, and Sarah felt the energy shift within her. This could lead to vital information. Arriving at the clinic, a small bell chimed against the door, and the scent of antiseptic mixed with animal dander enveloped her. The receptionist regarded her with a blend of curiosity and concern when Sarah explained her purpose. "Can you tell me about the dog that was brought in?" she asked, leaning in, a question burning on her lips. The receptionist glanced at her notes, her face tightening, and Sarah's heart quickened. "It was a pit bull mix. We had to treat him for several injuries, but he's recovering nicely. The owner mentioned he found him wandering, but—" "But?" Sarah prompted, her determination tightening around her chest like a vice. "Earlier that day, he was seen with another man, someone known to have connections with the ring. I think they were planning something." Sarah felt a chill ripple through her. "Can you provide me with the owner's information?" The receptionist hesitated, weighing confidentiality against the urgency of the situation. "I can't give out personal details, but I can call him and ask if he's willing to speak." "Yes, please," Sarah urged, desperation creeping into her voice. She needed to acquire every piece fitting into this fragmented puzzle, a chance to make sense of it all before it unraveled. As the receptionist made the call, Sarah's mind began to race with strategies. Time was not on her side. She could feel the senses of urgency tightening around her. What if this lead took her to the notorious suspect directly? "Okay. He's willing to share what he knows," the receptionist announced, pulling Sarah sharply back to reality. "You can meet him in the parking lot in about 15 minutes. "Thank you," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper, adrenaline sweeping through her. This could be her turning point, a pivotal moment where she could confront the underlying horrors and finally push back against the dark tide rising around them. As she stepped outside into the warm afternoon sun, her heart raced with the weight of her newfound purpose. Each moment brought her closer to a confrontation that could change everything, and the reality of what lay ahead was becoming vividly clearer. She refocused, steeling herself for what might come next, ready to engage, confront, and protect. With a determined breath, she stepped toward the parking lot, ready to face whoever awaited her, a newfound sense of strength swelling within. The time had come to confront the shadows that loomed over the family and to draw upon every ounce of her resolve to emerge victorious. Who might stand between her and saving the innocent? The thought throbbed in her mind as she approached the unknown, one that demanded she confront not only external threats, but also her growing understanding of the fight within herself. Sarah's heart raced as she approached the parking lot, an electric mixture of anticipation and dread coursing through her. The sun was beginning its descent, casting long shadows that danced across the pavement, mirroring the turmoil within her. Every instinct screamed for her to be cautious. This was not an ordinary meeting. This was a confrontation with the unknown, and perhaps the antagonist lurking behind the curtain of her investigation. As she neared the designated spot, her eyes scanned the area for the owner of the injured pit bull. An older man with a weathered face, leaning against an old pickup, caught her attention. His expression seemed distant, as if he were wrestling with memories she could only begin to fathom. "Are you the one who called about the dog?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with urgency. The man looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Yeah, that's me. I didn't think anyone would actually come." His tone had a hint of skepticism, a protective barrier built from years of distrust. Sara drew closer, consciously softening her posture. "I'm Sara. I'm looking into the circumstances surrounding that dog and the people involved in his past." She hoped to bridge the gap between her purpose and his reluctance. He folded his arms, his posture defensive. "You think I'd know anything about that?" "I believe you might," she replied, determination threading through her calm exterior. "The guy you saw with him? I need to know what you heard or saw." Deep lines etched on his forehead deepened as he considered. "People don't talk to me much round here, lady. You're not going to find what you're looking for." Sara sensed the walls closing in. She had to make him see the importance of his knowledge. "I understand. But a life is at stake. Maybe even more than one. If you know something, anything, it could save them. This is about ending the cycle of violence, not just reporting it." His eyes softened for just a fraction of a moment. He shifted his weight as if grappling with a choice that could change everything. "I'm just a mechanic. Know how to fix cars, not save lives." "Sometimes knowledge is the key," she urged. "You know more than you think." With that, a flicker of recognition crossed his face. "I overheard talk about a guy named Rick. He's connected to that fighting ring. I thought it was just rumors." "Where can I find him?" Sara pressed, adrenaline surging through her body. "He's usually lurking at the abandoned lot on 6th Street, but it's not somewhere I'd recommend venturing alone. He's dangerous." Dangerous. The weight of the word hung in the air, amplifying her resolve. "Thank you, you've done the right thing," she said, forcing appreciation into her tone. As she turned to leave, he called out, "Just be careful, all right?" "Always." The words hung between them as she sprinted towards her car, each footfall drumming with urgency. A confrontation loomed, a critical moment in her investigation. She could feel her heart pounding with both fear and excitement. Would she be able to face Rick, to extract the truth and protect those innocent lives? Pulling out of the parking lot, Sara's mind raced. She had crossed the threshold from investigator to protector, and now, more than ever, the looming threat demanded her full attention. With every passing second, she was navigating uncharted territory, not just in her investigation but in the raw expanse of her own courage, unraveling layers she hadn't even known existed. As she approached the abandoned lot, questions loomed large. What kind of man was Rick? What lengths would he go to protect his interests? But one thought resonated most deeply. The time had come. The shadows, those fears and vulnerabilities, had to be confronted. As she parked her car and approached the ominous building, she took a deep breath, ready to break through the surface of dread. With every step, she felt the world narrowing down to this crucial moment. The truth awaited her. But would she possess the strength to face it head-on? Would the encounter test her in ways she could hardly imagine? The air vibrated with anticipation as she moved closer to the unknown, her destiny intertwined with the fate of the innocent. As Sara stepped onto the gritty gravel of the abandoned lot, the heavy silence enveloped her like a thick fog. Each footfall echoed against the crumbling brick walls, heightening the sense of isolation. She half expected someone to emerge from the shadows, but it seemed that the only company she had was the distant howl of wind threading through the broken structures. Her mind was a whirlpool of questions and anxieties. What would Rick look like? Would he recognize her intentions the moment they met? She mentally replayed the mechanic's warning. Dangerous. The thought wrapped around her spine like a chill. Yet, with each heartbeat, her determination crystallized. She wasn't merely investigating a dog's injury. She was standing in the space between innocence and violence, ready to forge a path toward justice. Conflicting emotions stitched themselves into her resolve. Fear, yes, but also a burgeoning sense of leadership. Sara realized that her ability to guide those who had been wronged depended on the choices she made now. Confronting Rick might elevate her beyond the confines of a mere investigator. She could emerge as an advocate, a defender. Was that the growth she sought all along? Taking a steadying breath, she scanned the lot for any signs of life. It wasn't just Rick she had to consider. She was enveloped in unfamiliar territory, where even a flicker of movement could signify either birth or demise. The adrenaline coursing through her veins sharpened her focus, slicing through the emotional fog. From a distance, she spotted a dilapidated structure, a once vibrant building now cloaked in stories of neglect. It pulsed with an underlying energy that felt almost magnetic, its faded graffiti a desperate cry against the backdrop of desolation. Could this be where Rick hid? A tremor of anticipation sparked in her stomach. She approached quietly, ushering her instincts to the forefront. Pushing open the creaking door, she was greeted by darkness, interrupted only by shafts of light slicing through cracked windows. Within the shadows, she could almost feel the weight of decisions made and lives damaged, each corner echoing hollow remnants of what had been. The very essence of her purpose clung to the air, thick with potential. "Rick," she called, her voice steady, but she could feel the edge of uncertainty creeping in. "I know what you're doing here. I'm here to put an end to it." No answer came, not even a whisper. Clenching her jaw, she allowed herself a moment to contemplate her options. She could retreat, perhaps collect more evidence before confronting him, but that would mean leaving the innocent hung out to dry, caught in the crossfire of violence. She mentally wrestled with the instinct to recoil from the dark places of humanity. This wasn't just an investigation, this was her calling. Sara had never been one to back down. The pressure solidified her resolve. How had she come to this moment, standing at the brink of chaos with a courage that felt both foreign and familiar? "Show yourself," she challenged, her words somewhat bolder than her heart. And then, from the depths of the shadows, a figure emerged, tall and menacing, backlit by the dying sunlight. Sara's breath stilled. This was Rick. His expression was one of guarded, menacing curiosity, with a dismissive smirk that hinted at a plethora of secrets and a violent history. "That's a bold statement for someone who's just wandered into my territory." His voice slid into her consciousness like oil, slick and unnerving. Every muscle in Sara's body tightened, adrenaline flooding her system. The time had come, indeed. She would face his darkness, or be consumed by it. "Tell me what you know about the fighting," she said, her voice steadier now, emboldened by the edge of necessity. The smirk morphed into something darker, more predatory. "You think you can walk in here and demand answers?" His sharp eyes sparked with challenge as she braced herself against the fear rising in her throat. This wasn't merely about a confrontation. It was a test of her very will. "Let's find out," she shot back, invigorated by her emotional pivot. Her confrontation with Rick had begun. In that moment, she realized that this was the threshold that could redefine her. Courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was a choice to confront it. As Rick stepped closer, the air crackled with the potential for revelation and ruin. Would she be able to stand her ground and garner the truth she sought? The answer hung precariously in the balance, and Sara prepared to face whatever might come next. Sara steadied her breath, refusing to back down even as Rick's shadow loomed closer. The tension thickened like a fog, swathing them both in a palpable silence charged with unspoken challenges. She could feel the enormity of this moment. A single decision had the capability to ripple outward, to redefine not only the nature of her quest, but who she was evolving into. "Why should I?" Rick taunted, crossing his arms, his dark eyes glinting with latent threat. "What do you know about the real game here?" The rawness of his question struck a nerve. It was true, she didn't know everything, but this situation transcended mere knowledge. Sara had unearthed the whispers of violence, of pain rooted deep within the community, and anger at the injustices they had suffered motivated her even further. "I know enough," she replied, her voice a strong current that pushed back against him. It wasn't just about the fighting and the rumors, it was about the lives at stake. Her conviction wrapped around her like armor, shielding her from the uncertainty. Rick leaned in, a deceptive calmness washing over him. "Enough to get hurt, maybe. You shouldn't have come here." Every instinct screamed at her to retreat, to run away from the escalating danger, yet her feet remained firmly planted. What would it mean if she yielded now? To witness the suffering of the innocent and turn a blind eye? That thought anchored her. "Do you want to hurt them?" she pressed, her determination fraying the edges of her fear. Or are you just a cog in this machine? Either way, I'm here to stop it. His expression shifted, curiosity unfurling beneath the layers of menace. You're brave. I'll give you that. The smirk returned, but it was less confident now, almost contemplative. But bravery only gets you so far. Life's not as black and white as you think. With each word, he unraveled the very fabric of her resolve and self-assurance. In that brief moment, she considered his perspective, wondering if perhaps she was neglecting the complexity of his existence. Yet then, she remembered the faces of those she fought for, the voiceless, the weak. No, the fight wasn't simply about Rick. It was bigger than all of them. I'm not here to debate philosophy. I'm here for answers, she stated, cutting through her internal conflict. And what if I tell you what you want to hear? He countered, now fiddling with the edge of his jacket, a gesture that seemed both dismissive and revealing. Then, I'll expose it for what it is. An operation thriving on the misery of others, she fired back, each word strengthening her claim. Rick's demeanor shifted. You think you can just walk in and dismantle everything? You think the people here care about your justice? This is survival, sweetheart. You don't know the half of it. As his words hung heavy in the air, Sara grappled with the gravity of his insight. Survival. The concept gnawed at her conscience, raising questions about morality in landscapes defined by desperation. Could she impose her principles upon those who felt they had none? Or could her persistence inspire change inherent within her quest? You're wrong, she said, shaking her head slowly. People want to believe in something better. I'll show them that change is possible if they stand with me against you. Rick's demeanor flickered, his interest peaked. You think you can rally them? You're either incredibly naive or too stubborn to see what's right and wrong in this world. I believe I can make a difference, she asserted, allowing the full weight of her conviction to resonate. And I'll do whatever it takes to prove it. For a fleeting moment, a storm of emotions swirled between them, his skepticism battling against her resolve. It was in that charged silence that the stakes suddenly escalated. Dare to challenge me, and you might just uncover the truth, but you won't like what you find. His words slipped like ice through her veins. This confrontation wasn't merely a spar, it was a doorway to something bigger, and the truth, whatever shape it took, could change the course of her mission, and herself. As Rick turned, walking back into the shadows, a chilling realization settled over her. She was standing not just at the edge of his territory, but at the very precipice of her growth, racing towards an identity that embraced both the light and darkness of humanity. What truths awaited her in the depths of that darkness? Would her courage be enough to navigate the treacherous waters? The answers were locked behind the murky unknown, waiting just out of reach. The moment had come to peel back the layers of danger that lay ahead. Sara took a deep breath, adrenaline surging, and followed after him, stepping deeper into the shadows. Sara's footsteps echoed softly in the dimly lit alley as she followed Rick deeper into unknown territory. The air felt dense, laden with the weight of unspoken truths and potential betrayals. With each step, self-doubt threatened to creep in. She fought it back, pushing away thoughts that questioned the validity of her mission. Could she really affect change here, or was she merely a moth drawn to a flame, unaware of the impending danger? Rick moved ahead like a restless specter, occasionally glancing back, his interest evidently piqued by her persistence. Her heart raced, not with fear, but with an invigorating rush of purpose. This confrontation was more than a mere challenge. It was her crucible, a test of her convictions and her capacity for resilience. As they turned a corner, the alley opened into an abandoned courtyard shrouded in shadows. Discarded debris littered the ground, the remnants of lives once lived. A broken bottle here, a child's toy there. It struck her how easily people could be forgotten, much like these fragments of their past. She felt a surge of empathy wash over her, bolstering her resolve. You've got guts, I'll give you that. Rick's voice broke through her thoughts, echoing off the graffiti-stained walls. But guts don't mean much when you're facing off against a system that's rigged against you. You think you're out to save these people, but do you really know what it will cost? The challenge in his tone made her pulse quicken, but rather than falter, it ignited a fire within her. I don't expect it to be easy. I'm ready to face whatever comes my way. But giving up isn't an option. His brow furrowed, as if weighing her words. You talk a good game, but when it gets real, will you still be standing? Or will you crumble like so many before you? This isn't about bravery. It's about survival. Her mind raced, absorbing the implications of his words. Survival. The term echoed ominously in her ears, drawing out personal echoes of challenges she had faced in her own life. The unjust struggles, the moments when she had fought against the odds, feeling inadequate and overwhelmed. But this didn't feel the same. This was a call to arms, an opportunity to redefine not just her role, but her very essence. Survival means different things to different people, Rick, she countered, her voice steady. For some it means enduring. For others it means fighting back. His eyes narrowed, betraying a flicker of doubt. It was a small victory for her, a validation of her belief that her perspective could resonate, maybe even shift something deep inside him. In that moment, she caught sight of movement in the corner of her eye. A figure perched on a nearby rooftop, a silhouette observing the exchanges below. A cold chill washed over her, heightening her awareness of the stakes involved. Had she unknowingly stepped into the crosshairs of something far bigger? The adrenaline that surged through her was no longer solely about Rick. It was about an unseen network that operated in the shadows, an intricate web of power dynamics. Careful, Rick warned, his voice taking on an edge of caution. You never know who's watching. The realization unfurled within her. Here was an opportunity to tap into the very essence of her quest. She needed to engage those unseen forces, not just as a target but as potential allies in her fight for justice. This wasn't merely about confronting Rick. It was about an entire system that needed dismantling. Sara took a deep breath, making a mental note of her next steps. She had to plan strategically, using whatever advantage she had to turn the tide. The image of that figure remained etched in her mind, a flicker of a chance to connect the dots. Rick, if we're going to talk about survival, are you willing to stand by the people who are ready to rise? She asked, her gaze unwavering. Or will you keep playing their oppressor and letting them suffer? There was a moment of heavy silence as he regarded her, the air brimming with potential for either violence or alliance. What if I told you, he ventured hesitantly, that there's more going on than you realize? The shift in tone snapped her to attention. The promise of deeper insight dangled before her like a forbidden fruit. What lay beneath the surface of Rick's bravado? What hidden truths could he reveal that would alter her course yet again? Sara sensed her chance to delve deeper into the unknown, to pull at the thread that could unravel the entire tapestry of this chaotic environment. Then I want to know everything, she urged, emboldened by both fear and thrill. And I'm willing to face the consequences of that knowledge. As Rick's smirk faltered and curiosity replaced his bravado, Sara prepared to navigate into the depths of this new revelation. Would this be the key to not only understanding him, but also fortifying her own convictions against the backdrop of a fluctuating reality? What meandering truths would surface, and would they strengthen her cause or ultimately lead to her undoing? The chilling intrigue of the unknown loomed ahead, and she felt both daunted and exhilarated, ready for the next chapter of her unfolding destiny. Rick studied her, his expression a blend of intrigue and defiance. You might not want to walk down this path, Sara. Knowledge has a price, and sometimes it's not just coins or favors. Sometimes it's your safety. Her heart hammered, the stakes suddenly higher. There was an invitation behind his words, a challenge. She realized that this was not just a moment of potential revelation. It was a crucible. In advocating for change, she needed to balance her aspirations with their costs. Could she embrace uncomfortable truths, knowing they could either empower her or expose her vulnerabilities? Hit me with it, she urged, exuding a confidence even she didn't fully feel. What's at stake here? Rick hesitated, a storm of emotions crossing his face. It was as if he was in the midst of a personal conflict, protecting his data, or choosing to share it with someone who might actually tackle the problems at hand. The air crackled with tension, and somewhere in the shadows, the figure on the rooftop remained still, an observer of their fragile negotiation. "Let's say there's a game being played," he finally said, his voice low as if even the brick walls could listen. "And those in the game aren't just looking to keep the status quo. They want to manipulate it. They'll do whatever it takes to maintain power, and those who challenge them rarely come out in one piece. I've learned that the hard way." Sarah's gaze locked on his, the weight of his words sinking in. This wasn't just about her mission. It was about real lives, real dangers. "You've been part of this game, then?" "Let's just say I've been on both sides. I know how it feels to feel powerless, and I know how it feels to wield power. But trust me, it's a double-edged sword." Listening to him, a whirlpool of emotions stirred within her. She was reminded of her own past, of times she had felt overwhelmed, understanding both the agony of victimhood and the headiness of emerging strength. But the more she learned about Rick, the more she sensed a developmental pivot. Perhaps he had once held more idealistic values and lost his way. Could there still be a path back for him, and could she guide him there? "What's your goal, Rick?" she pressed, determined to peel away the layers of his persona. "Do you want to keep feeling that weight of power, or are you ready to dismantle what you know is wrong?" Her question hung heavy between them. Time stretched as Rick faced his own reflection in her eyes. The realization sparked a shift, a glimmer of something raw and real breaking through. Yet, even as he pondered, the unknown figure on the rooftop shifted, their silhouette barely discernible now but still vigilant. "You really think you can change things?" he asked softly, almost incredulous. "Not on my own, but I'm not afraid to rally in the face of opposition. I've been in dark corners before and I know how to look for light." Rick's laughter was low and laced with disbelief. Hope is a dangerous thing in a world like this. An urge to shake his conviction bubbled within her. Dangerous? Or powerful? The narrative you wrap yourself in is not one I subscribe to. You've got a choice. Keep sliding down the darker path, or start climbing back to the light. His eyes narrowed, dissecting her confidence. "What if I told you I could show you how deep the rabbit hole goes? Would you still be ready to climb down?" "Yes," she declared, the warmth of conviction flooding her voice. Here, in the shadows, Sara felt a sense of clarity. She wasn't just following Rick's lead, she was trying to illuminate the way forward, both for him and for herself. "What's the price?" He paused. "First, we need to figure out if you can handle the truth, and then you'll need to prove you can face the ramifications." A cold chill coursed through her. It suddenly hit her that while she sought change, the road might threaten fracture and disillusionment. What does that even mean? "There's a reason I'm still alive in this game. There are secrets I can show you, but they come with risks. Real risks." "Then what do we do?" she asked. The moment teetered on a precipice of knowledge and danger. "You either walk away now, Sara, or you take a step closer to truth most people can't even fathom." Was she truly prepared for this? Could she juggle the burden of revolutionary truths? And as the crackling tension thickened in the air, her heart raced. She knew the decision wouldn't just shape her mission, it would redefine her very existence. "Then let's go deeper." At that instant, the figure on the rooftop moved again, more pronounced, the implications of potential allies, or adversaries, swirling around them like a fog. Would this connection to Rick lead her to the right people, those who'd stand with her, or was it merely the first step toward a spiraling descent into chaos? With every nerve tingling, she braced herself. The moment of truth had arrived, and she was teetering on the edge of transformation. Would she emerge stronger, or would she fall into the consuming darkness together with him? The incubation of courage had birthed a new Sara Mitchell. Standing at the precipice of fear and truth, she had dismantled the very barriers that stifled her ambition. "Let's go deeper," she had declared, an unshakable statement that echoed in the silence of the abandoned courtyard. Rick turned towards her, his eyes alive with a mix of curiosity and caution. The layers of self-preservation she had peeled back now revealed an unvarnished glimpse of resolve. In that moment, she was no longer just a police officer. She was an active participant in a transformative saga, pushing against the dark inertia of complacency. With a brisk nod, Rick gestured for her to follow as he led her further into the shadows. The contours of this unknown territory started to reshape Sara's understanding of power dynamics. This was more than an investigation. It was a game of strategic depth. It required not only her courage, but also the intellectual agility to navigate the labyrinthine twists of complicity and conviction. As they moved further, Rick shared fragments of knowledge, connections pointing to the systemic rot embedded within the community. Each revelation served to illuminate the clandestine operations that had persisted unseen, with figures pulling strings from the shadows. In unveiling these hidden truths, Sara's vision sharpened, fusing her past and present into a singular path forward. Power isn't just a weapon, it's a language, Rick explained, his voice low but heavy with revelation. Those who fracture it can either inspire change or instigate chaos. As they reached a covert location laden with remnants of a world alive with desperation, she understood the weight of his words. Her grandfather had once embodied that power, standing against injustice. Empowered by her heritage, Sara confronted the challenge head-on, vowing to reclaim her family's legacy with every ounce of tenacity she possessed. This journey was no longer about just her. It was an opportunity to revive the dormant flame of justice buried under years of complacency. "Then let's fracture it," she said resolutely, igniting the urgency within both of them. They delved deeper into matters she had never before approached. Dangerous alliances, grim alliances, and even betrayals. Sara operated on a new frequency, weaving through disheartened voices that echoed stories of disappointment. She began to see patterns crystallizing in her mind. Fractured lives rekindled into a network of resistance, awaiting someone willing to lead them to change. Days morphed into weeks, and the tumultuous journey transformed Sara. The darkness, once overwhelming, became a canvas where she painted strokes of her conviction. With each confrontation and each alliance forged, she honed her capabilities as both a police officer and a protector. Her transformation garnered attention within the department. As tales of her internal battles and her brave crusade for justice spread, colleagues began to rally around her, drawn to the tenacity that propelled her forward. Recognition was not only emotional, it was tangible. Her precinct began to evolve. Sara emerged not just as law enforcement, but as a leader who illustrated the power of confronting uncomfortable truths and catalyzing authentic change. Finally, a pivotal moment arrived when they orchestrated a raid to extract a family ensnared in the web of violence that had perpetuated for far too long. As the sirens blared, a crescendo of roaring justice blooming in the air, Sara's heart raced. The long-awaited confrontation was at hand. "On my mark!" she commanded, her voice slicing through the thick tension. The door burst open, revealing chaos. But it was chaos she had prepared for. She confronted the forces that had kept the family shackled in fear, navigating through the fray with newfound confidence. Through strategic leadership and calm resolve, she led the charge, transforming her convictions into actions that would reverberate far beyond this moment. Later, standing amongst her team, accomplishments weaving through the aftermath of their triumph, Sara felt a deep, abiding satisfaction. She had not only dismantled the chains binding others, she had liberated herself from the expectations that had shackled her throughout her career. Recognition flowed, not just from her peers but the community she fought for. The story of her bravery reached the ears of those eager to share, validating her fight against the injustices that had held sway for too long. Jasper, now a cherished companion, wagged his tail beside her, and in that moment, Sara understood. She had successfully reclaimed her own legacy, embracing the mantle of protector and advocate, not just for her family's history, but for every life touching her own. As the sun dipped, tinging the sky with warmth, Sara stood solidified within herself, confidence enveloping her with the understanding that her journey was only beginning. She had transformed not only as a dedicated officer of the law, but as a force committed to rallying those in shadows into the light. "The best is yet to come," she whispered, resolute as the echoes of hope permeated the air. "Now it's your turn." Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive and emotional stories. Leave a like now to help feed the algorithm and keep the momentum going. Comment below with your reactions and theories about this incredible journey. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.